Yeah, do a little audio test because I don't know how this will sound with both of us talking.
Slash the wind.
Slash the car sounds in general.
Indeed. Audio testing. Testing 1, 2. Refrigerator watermelon.
I wish you talked like that because then that audio test would be useful. But you don't talk like that.
That is how I will talk while on camera.
Okay.
Yes. Indubitably. My good man. I say, Lord Featherington's been up to his usual shenanigans. He's out again gambling and squandering his entire family's fortune, including, I've heard, his dear daughter's dowries. Can you imagine the scandal? Lady Whistledown's going to have a field day with this, I tell you.
Well, we finished episode 6, I think.
It was the one with a lot of sex. It went from basically none to a lot in one episode. Good stuff, though.
So
quality content.
That's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched all of it thus far.
Oh, yes.
He has not watched any.
I have not.
So this is
That's not true. I've watched 6.
Well, I meant up till now. This is a rewatch for me. It is a fresh watch for you.
Yes. Takes thus far. Boring Bottom, or whatever his name was, really likes getting punched in the face. Nigel?
You keep making me forget his actual name because you say something different every time.
It's because his last name was nonsense.
It's like Burr something, and I know Burbrook, yeah.
Lord Burbrook.
Like I can't remember after
Lord
the
likes
Burr.
being struck with that attitude. For a guy who's just been punched in the face, he was awful mouthy. And then he got punched in the face several more times. And then he was still yet again surprisingly mouthy to the guy who's punched him in the face twice prior. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. That's not true. The Duke didn't hit him the first time. Because in a subversion of my expectations, he did not need to be a knight in shining armor. And in fact, came upon the damsel having already undistressed herself, which I very much enjoyed. Also, Daphne's got a mean right hook. Good for her. And in an opera glove, no less.
It's true. I don't know how much that really softens it. They're not like
she didn't even tear her opera glove, which is impressive. Those are very thin, silky, delicate.
It's also a good way to hide having punched someone because if your little hand bruises,
a tiny little hand. Well, to be fair, she's got a tiny little hand, so the fact that he crumpled, it's not like she's out here practicing. That couldn't, she's got a mean right hook, no shade. But
we don't hear anything about her.
Her hand being hurt?
No, I was going to say we hear about her practicing the pianoforte.
Mm-hmm. The pianoforte.
And some other miscellaneous womanly things, but never any sort of boxing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she's very cutesy. She's very mindful. She's very demure. At no point do we know that she's a pugilist. Meanwhile, the Duke, really good at getting hit. Not so good at throwing punches, aside from Boring Bottom, whatever his name was. Because, boy, every time we see him in the ring, he just gets his ass beat. Though, to be fair, he seems to have some kind of immaculately undamageable skin. Because he gets hit a lot. And, boy, he doesn't show a bruise the entire series. As opposed to sweet Lord Nigel, who gets hit in the face once or twice and ends up so bruised every scene that we see him in from then on.
Sure.
Which is great. A lot of excellent mutton-staches. I will be rating the mutton-staches when we finish the season. I'm going to have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably continue from where we are now, but then do a retrospective.
No, because there was a really good one in the wedding episode when they were somewhere around a carriage. I glanced up while I was working on something, and boy, there was a guy with just an absolutely stunning mutton stache. Nice salt and pepper kind of vibe going on there. Excellent top hat. Can we talk about the Duke wearing his top hat at a jaunty angle? I mean, they call him a rake, but that is a very rakish behavior to be wearing your top hat at such a jaunty angle.
Is it like the lip bit is what goes up that's the problem? Or
so
the actual...
You're supposed to wear that bad boy straight across, right?
Gotcha.
Completely straight and flat would be the gentlemanly way to wear your hat.
I see.
He has it at a jaunty angle, meaning it's just tipped just like slightly. But that's enough. That shows a lack of decorum. That poor man, that young man, he's a rake, a rogue, a ne'er-do-well, a miscreant, wearing his hat at such a jaunty angle in polite society nonetheless. He shows up to Lady Danbury's house with his hat at such a jaunty angle. One must assume that he is up to nefarious behaviors.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Straighten that hat, young man.
I don't know if he ever has worn a hat again.
Nope. The rest of the series so far has not. Which is fine, because he has too handsome a face to have any of it concealed with even a stunning top hat as the one that he was wearing. Now, shortly after that, we do see two young gentlemen parading down the street in immaculate, like 9-10-inch hats, like just phenomenal hats. So whoever the haberdasher is for this costuming, well done.
I think the costume just gets better.
Does it really? Because it's exceptionally good so far.
I think it gets a little less historical.
They get a little more.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Like it's still
already
fairly
like
period, but I think they just have a little. They want to make the actors and the characters look good. So I think they want.
Which I think is a totally respectable thing to do. And also, when you open the door for it already being sort of an AU history fiction, the fashions would likewise, if society and culture was slightly different, would also follow the same trajectory, I would say. So I think that's fair.
What's your current theory on Lady Whistledown?
Lady Whistledown is Lady Danbury, and I will hear nothing else.
Okay.
She's a saucy debutante who's out of the public eye. She's got enough distance from what's going on that most people aren't really paying attention to what Lady Danbury's doing, us included. She starts out scenes and disappears, right? We barely see her at all. Now, I'm assuming when we get a reveal and it isn't Lady Danbury, it's probably the lady who was throwing the almost burlesque party, the widow lady. And I'm sure if I went back and rewatched episodes, she's in the background or something, because this show seems like it has enough attention to detail that if I wasn't sewing a leather apron while watching it with you and was paying more attention to what was going on in scenes, I would have noticed a recurring character in the background and been like, oh, it's that bitch. But
I think they do a good job at not planting too many seeds intentionally, so it stays a bit vague.
I personally think it is Danbury, Lady Danbury. One, because she's just delightful, and it would make sense for her to have a slightly more important role in the overarching story past the Duke's marriage. Or at least I would hope, because I enjoy her character quite a bit. But more so for the reasons that they've already spelled out so far, which was that it's probably a high socialite, because she would have to have the funds and the flexibility with which to be producing a printed work in this time period. And distributing it at no cost. She does seem like she's saucy enough and has enough, I wouldn't say disdain, but she's got enough sort of besmirchment with the social order of things that I could see her wanting to introduce a little sauce and scandal. But mostly so far, it's been that everything said about the Duke has been in a positive light from start to finish. And the only reason somebody who is salacious as Lady Whistledown has been thus far in just throwing everyone under the bus, but yet always has positive things to say about the Duke, would be because she is actively trying to get him a sensible pairing. So she always paints him in a positive light in order to keep his prospects available to him. I also assume that it would be Danbury because the fact that it has only started in this socializing season, and that happens to be the same season that the Duke comes back to town and Lady Danbury's reintroduced into society as like a socialite, would make a lot of sense, because this little old lady has
She's definitely not
nothing better to do.
reintroduced. She's been heavily involved with
She's
it.
like around, don't get me wrong, but she didn't have like an investiture in the goings on of the social circles in the same way that she does now that her...
I was gonna say, I heavily disagree, but I also feel like some of that
going on there?
is not fully revealed at this time, so I'm not sure what is and is not spoilers, but...
Gotcha.
So I don't want to say certain things, because I'm
Was she like a spy for the Queen? Because she and the Queen did have like a sort of a glimmer in their eyes for one another when the Queen's like, "Hey, are you gonna bow for me?" And she's like, "That's as low as my old knees. As low as my old knees will let me go," or something like that.
You can interpret that as you will, but she
yeah.
is close to the Queen.
Okay.
Do you think the fact that, she usually walks around with a cane would change her accessibility in being able to either get the gossip around or, deliver the text for the papers?
My thinking with the cane is very much like in real life, I presume. Having a disability will tend to make people shy away from paying you extra attention. I think would be a polite way to put it, in that people with disabilities often go slightly more unnoticed in a crowd, in that people wouldn't admit it freely, but most people actively avoid, I wouldn't say acknowledging, but noticing someone with a disability. Particularly in that time period, it would be very gauche to bring attention to the fact that she's walking around with a cane. And so because of that, people would kind of make a point of not really paying attention to what she's doing in a social scene, which would give her a lot of freedom to move around in these social circles without really drawing a whole lot of attention to herself, in my particular opinion. Which again, to me is just like, she can navigate these spaces subtly. And also because she's such a high society figure, people won't really question her being anywhere that she decides to be, if that makes sense. Like if she's wandering around at a party, people are just like, it's Lady Danbury, she's eccentric. And I could see that being a useful shield for her in order to navigate being Lady Whistledown. It also, she just seems like a gal she's intelligent and kind of cunning and interesting enough that I feel like she would need something to do. And so far we haven't seen her have any hobbies. And so I feel like she just would need something to do.
Dude, I don't know if any of the older women have much hobbies besides their children and gossiping with one another.
I suppose that's fair.
I will say that the reasoning that the characters in the show have given to believe that it's not her is that she is somebody to outwardly speak her mind as opposed to do it quietly, which is not as common. So how do you feel about that?
I could see that. So
assertion. In
the same way that like I outwardly speak my mind very openly, as pretty much anybody who knows me will attest to, I would still have, the ability to write and I suppose interact with a different form of media, in that like these social circles, there's still stuff that would be kind of gauche to point out or say. A lot of what Lady Whistledown's doing is sort of deputizing the written word as a way to spread the same rumors that are already going around. And so it's basically just making it accessible to the public what is going on in these sort of closeted social spheres, where like the doors close and the general populace doesn't see, who's doing what behind the scenes and who's talking to who and who's the big, this and that. And so in particular, I honestly feel like the fact that she's very outspoken about her thoughts and beliefs makes her more likely to be Lady Whistledown, and that I feel like that would give her a broader reach of the people who, when she has a thought or a feeling that is very poignant, that she can bring that to a broader audience than just the gals in her direct social circles. Make sense? So yeah, right now my theory is Danbury. I'm assuming that Whistledown is at least a character we have been introduced to. I wouldn't expect it's any of the mamas, because the narrative espoused by Whistledown made Daphne look bad. So I don't think it is Daphne's mom, because she has thus far had no reason to portray any of those things. I don't think it's Eloise, although we have been sort of hinted that she's always writing in her little diary. But on the one hand, I could maybe see it being Eloise, because she was sort of determined for Daphne not to find a pairing on the first season, so that she wouldn't be flung into the market. I don't know what the word for it is. The social
Marriage mart.
Marriage mart. Is that what they call it? Oh, gross. Blech.
They enter society and then are on the marriage mart, basically.
Yeah. Which is market, which is gross. Yeah. Gotta love aristocracy. So often we're just reminded why we don't do that anymore, or at least why we shouldn't be. The whole socialite stuff has been an interesting view. I would say I feel like the wild artist orgy party of like the Second Sons and stuff absolutely would have been going on. Obviously this is an AU to history, but the idea that like the young ladies would be going to their marriage beds not knowing anything, just from historical sources that we have, like letters between aristocrats and
we've only been really shown that that's the case for Daphne and the Bridgerton
household.
So
we
don't necessarily know that to be true about other
Everybody
households.
else be out there clapping cheeks. So that's very fair that like it does seem like the other houses are a little more aware, although the Featheringtons also seem to be keeping a tight lip on the proclivities of the bedroom, because sweet little babyface Penelope also is completely freaking clueless about what's going on in a bedroom or how a lady becomes with child.
That's true, because she has got the whole narrative with Marina.
Yeah, the whole thing with Marina and asking how a cake made her pregnant, and that's
true. So at least them.
Yeah, at least the Featheringtons also. But the Featheringtons,
which does make sense in that those two families are fairly close, because they do have like Colin and Eloise are both friends with Penelope, so like the families are close enough that they would
have some
gossip
overlap,
about those things. At least Eloise and Penelope probably would gossip about those things. Obviously, it'd be inappropriate for Colin and Penelope to gossip about such things.
Certainly.
But Eloise and Penelope would be, I would assume, if they had an understanding.
I do think, I presume Lady Featherington and Lady Bridgerton were probably at least associates or pals, being that they live across the street from each other, and they're both ladies of some repute and well-known prior to the season. Featherington definitely seems way, way more competitive than Bridgerton.
Well, that's also because Bridgerton is a slightly higher social class to them, because the Viscount and Viscountess, though there isn't a Viscountess right now.
Yeah,
because Anthony's technically the Viscount.
I almost called him Adam. I was like, I know it starts with an A, but Anthony, still hasn't. Yeah, I did like his tearing down by by Lady Bridgerton. I thought was actually very well done, in that there's been a lot of dialogue this season that has been just like exceptionally good. It's prosaic in that it's using language from the time, but it is not
Very accessible.
It's very accessible. It's not so like arcane as to be despondent. Like it's not unfathomable when you're listening to them talk, which is really nice because there are some period pieces that write in that form of language, and it is exhausting to listen to. So I think
it can be distracting from like the plot and the characters.
But at the same time, it is like a beautiful way to navigate the language. And so I think they did a good job of just putting enough of the period dialect in there to really make it feel true-ish to form, and also not make it so obtuse as to be like unreachable for a general audience. But it was good. I've been enjoying the dialogue a lot. Not just the way that it's delivered, but the writing has been very good. And I've enjoyed the interactions between a lot of the characters, and that there's a lot, for only having gone through 6 episodes so far, there's been a lot of character dynamics, and a lot of character growth that's been very intriguing.
I also like that even though the like time of the show, so like so much happens in a single day, I do like that the show moves along and things happen. Like you're not constantly going, next episode is when they're gonna have this ball. It's like, we're gonna have this ball, and then it's like 10 minutes later in the episode that ball happens. So you're moving through interactions and events with ease and not just dragging on in between. All of the dialogue is part of the action moving forward, and not just like, sitting in a room having these deep conversations. It's part of like the bigger narrative that's moving alongside of it. It kind of like, I'm definitely reminded now watching this first season over, like how much I enjoyed that about the show, is that the fact that like stuff happens, like a lot of stuff happens, and that's really nice because it's an hour episode, and certain shows with an hour do very little in that hour. So I feel like they take advantage
Game of
of
Thrones
that.
season 3.
I feel like they take advantage of that hour very well, and it doesn't feel rushed. It feels earned in how they move through everything. So
on that note, I really like that they don't feel the need to go 3 months later. They just kind of mention in dialogue how long it has been. So like a great example is like things are moving along, and then they mention that it's been 3 months since Marina's gotten here. And, they're like, so you're, at the very least, you've got 6, maybe 7 months left before you have the child. Spoiler alert. I think that that's a really good way to exposit how long it's been passing in episodes and stuff, rather than just having like a big white text that says 3 months later or something like that. It gives you a concept of how much time has actually been passing over the course of these episodes, so you kind of can follow along. Oh, okay, that's what's going on here, but without having the need to, have a narrator.
And theoretically the season lasts about a year because it's the social season, which they don't have like a super.
It's like spring. To
yeah,
fall.
They don't have like a super well-defined definition of that, but it's assumedly about a year. I
think it's about like 3/4 of a year. It's basically the season when you can be out and about and doing stuff. I feel like most people would be wintering off.
Yeah, it's
of
probably
the social
like spring
season
to late
it's
fall.
Frickin' chilly, and also most people would be traveling for either to warmer climates if they're wealthy enough to have a place in a warmer place over the winter, or would just be kind of locking in because taking a carriage in the snow sucks. And nobody wants to do that. And so they're not going to these big social balls and stuff when it's frickin' cold out.
That's true. And a lot of them are done inside, but we've seen many things outside. They also couldn't promenade if they were inside.
Exactly, you cannot promenade. So bougie. I've enjoyed the costuming a lot. The Duke has had a couple of outfits that just slapped.
You really liked that like red one
Dude,
with the high collar.
he had the red one, the red and black one with the high collar. I was like, I had never thought to cast the Paladin from the D&D movie as Strahd if they ever did like a, but he could do a Strahd, or if they ever decide to do, either another season of the, what's that, Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire series.
Still coming out?
Yeah, I think that's still coming out. But I feel like that guy has the right face and countenance to be a vampire. Like, every so often you see a guy, you're like, damn, that guy could be a vampire on a TV show. That dude in particular. He killed that whole... There are certain people that style of clothing really suits. That dude should have been an 18th century Duke, like his, or a 19th century? 19th century Duke.
Like 1810s-ish.
I thought it was 1830s. Didn't they say something about that? Mm-hmm. I think it's something else.
I think they're in the 1810s.
1810s. Ish.
I'm not sure which year exactly, but...
They revealed that the king has dementia. Woof. That's sad. Particularly knowing that the exposition we've had about the Queen so far is that her and the King married for love, and that's the whole reason that she approves of the Duke and Daphne in the end doing their thing, is specifically because of the fact that her marriage was for love, and that she's like a hopeless romantic. I think is really sweet. And also, made that devastating when you find out the King's got dementia.
There is I don't remember if it's like a mini-series or like a Christmas special. I can't remember exactly what it was. Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So there is a dedicated like Queen Charlotte thing. I think it either happens between seasons 2 and 3 or between 3 and 4. I can't remember when it came out. But considering you got more into the show than I thought you would, we should probably slap that in there so you get a little bit more of their story.
It's a romance series. It's a historical piece that makes the effort to be historically accurate. And, it's colorful and fun. It's a good show. It's good stuff. Also, as I explained before, I have seen every episode of Gilmore Girls and would rewatch it again at the drop of a pin.
You should join some of the folks in my Discord who go to the Gilmore Girls Festival.
I didn't know there was a Gilmore Girls Festival. I don't know if the dear viewers there have noticed that I dress an awful lot like Luke, the diner owner. And that is because I saw that as a young man and was like, yes, Luke is not only the type of man a man should aspire to be, but also dresses like a rock star. Good for him. Flannel, jeans. What else could you need? Lumberjacks figured it out in the 1800s, and we've never needed an updated men's clothing since. But I used to watch Gilmore Girls with my sister. That was like our thing. So I love a good romantic comedy series, particularly one that is in a very interesting period in time. I cannot wait for Maria's soldier guy to show up. Marina. Oh, hello. That guy almost just caused an accident. Chimney Christmas. Yikes. Marina. What did I call him? Maria?
Maria.
That's fine. Marina, when her love interest guy inevitably shows up in later seasons, which I have to imagine he's going to. Or even probably this season, based off of they just keep bringing it up. And that's not the sort of thing you do typically in writing unless he's going to arrive shortly. So I give it an episode or two before this guy rolls in.
So like I said, I really like that this series, they do have some overarching themes and stuff, but most of the stuff that is like a big plot point does get resolved within the season. Yeah,
which is the sensible way to write a series, is have major plot lines wrap up by the end of the season and then have the overarching story continue on. Looking at you, Stranger Things. That's a separate video we should make.
From my understanding, the book series follows similarly to the show in that it's dedicated around a couple for the most part. I think the only thing that isn't fully true is I think they did it slightly out of order. Like, I think the seasons of the show don't line up with the order of the books exactly. But I don't know well enough what the order of the books is to...
Yeah, I would have imagined, based off of the fact that they've made such a point that the children were named in alphabetical order, the Bridgerton children were named in alphabetical order, that we would have seen the relationship pairings in that order. I'm curious if it is that way in the book, if they're married off.
Yeah, I don't think it's fully alphabetical order in the books either. I think the first season is the first book. But again, I don't know that for certain. That is just from what I've gleaned from people who are familiar with the book series.
Yeah, I'm curious who the next one is going to be, and I'm going to make a point of not spoiling for myself. Obviously, none of the other Bridgertons, aside from Benedict, I think, have met somebody that they're potentially going to end up with. I would say, aside from if Anthony decides to cast all social norms into the wind and marry his opera singer, which there would be, I would say, personally, some measure of leniency toward, and that Anthony is a Viscount. He's a high enough man of social order that, like, while it might not look good on his house to not take another lady in, it's not like he's, like, hurting for that dowry.
No, but it could, by doing that, ruin his siblings' ability to marry out.
Yeah, on that note, though, Daphne's just married a duke and become a duchess. So she's gonna pretty much offset whatever her brother gets up to, socially speaking. They've already got a duchess in the Bridgerton line. They've already got a Viscount in the Bridgerton line. They're already doing pretty well for themselves. That, you know, it's not like he's marrying down and leaving the house in a downward fashion. He would just be bringing somebody into their home that, I mean, an opera singer in particular isn't like a low station. I mean, she's probably a commoner, but at the same time, you typically don't become like a professional opera singer if you're not at least from some measure of wealth. Like, you would have had to get the singing lessons and also have the patronage with which to afford. I mean, obviously, I guess to this point, Anthony was her patron, I guess, because he was paying for her apartment. So maybe that, you know, ties into it. But it wouldn't be, I feel like, I mean, obviously, I'm not that versed in, what is that, Georgian period?
It's Regency era.
Regency era. I'm not really that versed in Regency era. Social standings and stuff. I know like a vague amount from other period pieces, mostly, not from my like full knowledge of history. But I feel like there would be some lenience enough that like Anthony could probably go, I do what I want, and people will be like, well, you are a man of wealth and station, so you do kind of just do what you want. Particularly when one sister is already, for their batch of, you know, for this generation, is already married up. You know, pretty significantly. Being marrying into a duchy is not a small feat.
Duchy is a very funny word.
Duchy, yes.
Is that
pretty sure that's correct. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Dukedom.
Dukedom is what I was gonna
duchy.
say.
Like, I think a duchy is the duchess form of dukedom, I would assume. But I don't know. I'm just making words up based off of how other words are formed. And that's the fun thing about language. You can just take two things that make enough sense, smush them together real good. I'm pretty sure Benedict is going to be revealed to be bi, and he's going to have kind of a throuple thing going on with the dressmaker lady and the artist guy. And I love that for them. You know, being as the artist said, you know, being a second son comes with its own set of privileges, of which like nobody gives a shit what you're up to. As long as Anthony doesn't get himself killed in a duel or something, being a hot-headed idiot, you know, it won't really be Benedict's problem to marry into station. I could see if Marina's soldier guy doesn't come home and like she gets an actual letter from him that he died or something, Colin marrying her anyways, because for what we've seen so far, Colin seems to be a very honorable dude. I like him. He's got a great sense of humor so far and is just genuinely a likable person from what we've seen.
We haven't seen the full follow-up of that, though, because at the end of the last episode that we just watched, Lady Whistledown just wrote about...
Just revealed that, yeah, she has a thing.
So we don't actually know the fallout of that at this point.
That's true.
If there is any. I mean, on a bigger societal level, yes, for sure. But yes, we don't know the interrelationship.
Penelope Lady Whistledown? Or did Penelope narc to Lady Whistledown? Is the thing. Because the only people that knew were the ones within the Featherington household. And...
potentially the modiste, because she had commented on the fact that, like, she had taken her measurements a bunch, and...
Oh, the dressmaking lady? Oh! Now there's another... There. Oh... That, the modiste is also an excellent candidate for being Whistledown that I hadn't considered.
I do think we can assume, though, that most of the Featherington household knows, because everyone's a gossip. So even if just the one servant knows,
overheard, yeah,
it doesn't mean she hasn't shared that information out. She's probably not the only one doing the wash, which is how she discovered it. So I would assume the whole household knows at this point.
How are red sheets not a more common thing?
Well, red is a harder dye to like.
Yeah, that's
hold.
fair. But like a brownish red, just not to get weird, different train of thought. Why are we still using white sheets? What's that about? Why are we using the most sustainable color for bedding?
At least in modern days, that's because you can throw bleach on stuff.
Yeah,
that's the main reason. I disagree with that being the
2 miles. Use the
solution.
right 2 lanes to take exit 24 for I-87 North, I-90 East toward Albany, Montreal.
Cut that part. We don't want them to know where we're going.
But at least in modern days, that is why white is used. Back then, I agree with you. It would have been a pain to clean and keep clean, but I think that was also, if you could keep white clean, that means you had the ability to keep something white clean.
I suppose, or you just would replace them if they got dirty.
That's true. Either way, it would be a sign of wealth to have white things, because it would show that you'd be able to either clean them or replace them. And considering you're not supposed to wear a dress more than once, probably the second one.
I did love when she confronts Featherington about the fact that she can't get new dresses for the girls. He's like, fucking let them wear one twice. Shows one, he's either so dismissive of his own daughter's needs that he just doesn't care about the social norms of only wearing a thing once, or he's so disconnected from what's going on with his wife and the girls that he doesn't know that that's like a total social faux pas.
So yeah, that's a woman's business.
Use the right 2 lanes
That's
to
true.
Exit 24,
I suppose it would be
North, I-90 East,
not
Albany, Montreal.
uncommon for him to have known those things. Or to have, my whole brain got thrown through a loop from that. It would not be untoward for him to not be aware of those, I suppose.
I'm going to pause till it. How much longer do you want to talk about Bridgerton? We've been talking for shy of 40 minutes.
It's fine with me, man. I'm having a good time.
I was just doing this originally as an audio test, so I don't actually know if the audio is working right.
It's fine. Worst case, it doesn't work, and we just had a fun conversation about Bridgerton. I'm not worried about it.
I really want to keep my chips, but those are really loud in a microphone.
Yeah, I know. I was watching you eating that little thing while we were talking. I was like, bold choice, eating on camera.
I've been taking the bites off camera and then just chewing on camera with my mouth closed, like a proper lady.
Like a proper lady. I still can't believe you would partake in the biscuits, Mama, at the, what was it, at the So they were at some ball
In a
or
quarter
something,
mile,
and the mom
use
had
the right two
a
lanes
cookie.
to take exit 1N
She's like,
for I-87
Mama,
north toward Albany
how could you
International
possibly
Airport,
eat at the
Montreal.
ball?
Women can't eat.
Women can't eat. Not at a ball. How
Use the right
untoward.
two lanes to take exit 1N.
Which I thought was really funny.
Also, I don't need to fully cut this out because I was going to do this as part of a vlog for the Vermont Renaissance Fair. So
No, that's,
We'll-
I don't care.
We'll be home.
Yeah,
before
that's true.
this, folks.
Yeah, I don't care if they. I mean, I also don't really care if people know where we were driving. I suppose that's fair. Yeah, the what did you call her? The dressmaker? Grab my phone, it's falling. Grab my phone, get it, quick, get it.
The seatbelt restoring me. Modiste.
Modiste? Ah, that's not a word I'm familiar with. Had that at the old lexicon. Modiste.
Continue
It's like
for 50
modest, but
miles.
slightly different, which is interesting. Modiste. How do you spell that?
Probably Modiste.
Okay. It's French for like dressmaker, probably, I guess. I did like that they alluded to the fact that the dressmaker is probably Cajun or Creole, and that she has a French accent, but it's not quite French. And Marina kind of points that out. And that subtly alludes to maybe that there is like a faux pas about an English woman of repute having been from the Americas. That was an eyebrow raiser to me. I'm like, that's a little extra world building because we don't know what's going on in the States, because they actually made a point of showing that like I kind of assumed that it was going to be more of like a colorblind kind of thing, but I did like they wrapped in that like, no, there's been social progresses because of the marriage between the queen and the king, and that they married for love, and so then like, you know, a slew of social progress and rights were made because of that, which I think is really cool. It's an interesting way to tie that into the series. But because of that, that does raise a question of that, like, that wasn't the case in the States at this period. So that does lead some like, ooh, I'm curious if they expand upon that at all, or if that's just going to be like a thing that gets, you know, sort of subtly alluded to every now and again. But yeah, I'm in all alternative universe fashions, particularly alternative history. I do really enjoy a good alternative history. I would be very curious to see what other parts of the world have been changed by these little subtle changes, because the aristocracy of this period, as we see with her nephew, who is like the Emperor of or the Prince of Prussia, in line to be the Emperor of Prussia, presumably. That is true to form, and that like in that period all the way up until now, really. All of the royals of all of these countries were like a small integrated family. They're all cousins. They're all related. It was actually one of the saddest things about World War I is that like every one of the leaders of these countries that were at war with each other were like first or second cousins. They're all very closely related. To the point that when you see the photos from prior to World War I of all those guys together, they look like the same dude. They all have like the same haircut and same mustache and same general build and facial structure. They look like the same guy, which is weird in of its own right. But because of the social progresses made by that particular union of the Queen and the King in this series, I would be very curious to see what other, what like long-reaching effects that would have on other countries and rulers and the social progresses made there, because most prior to New York City being the big social progress focal point in the world for a long time, France and London typically were places that people looked to for sort of what direction the general zeitgeist was going. And so I'd be very curious if they, I don't know if they expand in later seasons on outside of the Bridgerton social stuff. Is that a drone or a helicopter?
Let's say helicopter.
Helicopter. Just like kind of a black spot in the sky. But I'd be very curious to see where, how much that is expanded upon in later seasons. Oh, they're probably monitoring speed. This is the first time I've actually seen the speed limit enforced by aircraft thing actually enforced by aircraft. Interesting. It is just kind of chilling there. Huh. It's not something you see very frequently. You see the signs a lot. Sure. Yeah, I'll be curious to see where that. There's a couple of little enticing little tidbits that they've sprinkled in over the course of this season so far that I'll be curious to see where those lead, if they lead anywhere. Mm-hmm. But there does seem to be a level of attention to detail here that they don't seem to drop stuff in terribly often that doesn't have some kind of a resolution. So
yeah, I'm not sure if there's some stuff that's just for world building though, as opposed to anything we're supposed to really follow through
anything more
on.
concrete.
Yeah,
I'm curious because Marina made that little comment. I'm like, oh, okay, so what's that? Oh, what are we supposed to infer from that? That's interesting. Anytime they make those little sort of offhanded things like that, I'm always like, oh, you got me. I want to know more. Well done. So I'm curious to see where that goes, if anything. Or if we just learn more about the modiste. And who was the painting fellow? What's his name? The artist.
no, I know who you're speaking about. I think his first name's Henry, maybe.
Okay.
I don't remember his last name.
I've heard of the wild, raucous, aristocratic orgy party. From what we know of the period, yeah, it totally happened, man. I don't remember which one of the French kings was the one that had that weird sex chair made, because he was a freak, and they still don't exactly know how it was supposed to be used, which is like impressive. Also, there can only be so many combinations that are possible with that thing, that like somebody has to have figured it out by now. But it's probably just so awful that they're like, we don't want to talk about it. But
yeah, I don't want to put that in the video, but I can put a link in the description if people want to click in to see what you're talking about. Like, I don't want that image in the video.
Oh yeah, don't put the weird sex chair in the video. I mean, you wouldn't, looking at it, it's just, it looks like a gurney. Like it's wildly, it's also a beautiful piece of furniture. The amount of, obviously, because he was for a king, the amount of detail and intricacy in the carving and the like red velvet, I think, for the seats on it, it's just wild. But the rich people be getting up to some weird stuff, and they always have, you know. Modern day notwithstanding, you know. There's that level of social front that they, you know, even in this, that they show of, you know, the sort of societal norms and expectations, and then behind the scenes, those things are thrown entirely out the window. They're just for the general public to see. And based off of the amount of letters and stuff we have, as well as just historical documentations of aristocrats getting up to some risky business behind the scenes, we kind of know that to have been true for the time period. So I did like that they kind of threw that in, and that it wasn't just all prim and proper and, you know, very surface level. Break. Coffee break. Good.
Honestly, what I probably will do is put like 5 or so minutes of this conversation in the vlog, and then put a separate video out.
This has been like an hour.
Has been 15
this
minutes.
is just going to be our halfway through season 1 review, and then maybe
3/4 of the way. Or
three-quarters of the way,
episode
whatever.
6.
When we finish the season, we should do a follow-up, and then we could do the same thing, do the half-season review of season 2, blah, blah, blah. We'll go from there. The duel was hilarious. The fact that Anthony's pointing his gun right at the Duke just has his hand straight up in the air like, I'm not going to shoot you. And Anthony's like, I still have to because honor, is hilarious. The fact that he already got called out once by his mama for not practicing what he preached, and then going out in the field and being like, you besmirched my sister's honor, while he's been clapping the opera lady's cheeks this whole season.
I mean, it's fine for him to have a mistress.
I know. It's just so annoying. But I do feel like between bros, they could have pulled aside and had that conversation early in the season. The first time that Anthony confronted his, school friend, it was like, dude, what are you doing? Would have been a perfect time to be like, I don't know, dude, it's your sister's idea. We're playing the game. We're trying to get her the best match possible. And as the guy who's also trying to get her the best match possible, I feel like he'd be like, oh, you cunning little rake. And then they would have had a good laugh.
Yeah, but he really kind of wasn't at the beginning of the season. He just didn't want to pair it off really unless there was a perfect person. Which I wouldn't necessarily say he's looking after her best interests, because that's like a step beyond.
That's true. Particularly when he starts trying to marry her to Boring Bottom. That does, I suppose, become kind of clear that wasn't really his mainstay. Was not really her best interest, I suppose, so much as the family's best interests. But
that and some other stuff that will spoiler territory if I go into it. So
fair enough. The fact I still loved when he's listing off Boring Bottom's accomplishments. He's like, he's even a decent shot, and like, I don't know, that cracks me up. That is such a, these aristocrats are ever going to need to use a gun outside of a duel, which is illegal.
Well, they probably go duck hunting.
They go fox hunting and that kind of stuff, sure. But Boring Bottom does not seem like the kind of guy who's an outdoorsman who's going on these hunts frequently, kind of thing. And also, I do love that, they're using smooth bore guns still at this point, I think. I don't think rifling was widespread in the 1810s. As shown by the musket pistols that they're, or the flintlock pistols that they're using in the duel. So the fact that, he calls him a decent shot, I'm like, I guess there's some level of skill involved, but those things are so wildly inaccurate that, it's luck as much as aiming. Maybe that's why it's so
impressive, is the fact that maybe your luck is so high with it that it seems like you're good at it.
I loved Boring Bottom's mother. She was as insufferable as I would have expected based off of his character. So well done on the consistency of character writing on that one. In that, you only get her for 3 minutes of a conversation over tea, and you're like, oh, this explains him completely.
Yeah.
That gives me everything I need to know about Boring Bottom. Yep. This lady explains his entire personality. She was the worst. I feel like the mamas of this series are either the worst or delightful, and there's not really an in-between. Pretty much across the board.
Yeah, I would say I'd agree with that.
And unless the Prussian prince comes back and ends up marrying Eloise, which I feel like would be a wild, interesting direction. Because he missed out on the one Bridgerton girl, and then Eloise is going to be in the next social season. So I could see them reintroducing his character and him having a thing with Eloise particularly because, the series focuses on the Bridgertons, and so far we haven't seen anybody who could even be introduced as a potential for Eloise, or the other Bridgerton girls who aren't important yet because they're not old enough to be.
Yeah.
I would say so far, if Colin is to be married off, I would expect that it's probably going to be Marina, because they have slowly kind of introduced her as like a main plot character, when the story thus far has really heavily circled around just the Bridgertons. The Featheringtons are only so heavily featured in that they're in proximity to Marina as a character, as far as the narrative's concerned, from what I've been noticing. And so my assumption is that she's going to play a more major role and probably end up with Colin. Eloise, I feel like the prince could come back, maybe her and Eloise. And Eloise is enough of a little raucous mischief maker. She's so outside the social norms that I could very much see her being like an interesting candidate for him. Like, because he kind of expressed that one of the things he liked about Daphne was that she was unimpressed by him, like completely unimpressed by him. And he was like, that's nice. It's just nice to not feel like chased like a, Christmas goose. And so I could see that being an appeal for him coming back for the next season.
Sorry, Christmas goose stopped me in my tracks for a second there. I had to really... Like, I went, uh-huh, and I went...
Uh-huh? What? Yeah, I could see that being a thing for Eloise. I do feel like as the second son, Benedict is going to kind of have his own thing going on. I like the idea of him being sort of intermingled with this artistic couple and sort of following his artistic dreams and stuff. I would love that for him.
Well, I don't think that him, artist and the modiste could be a thing.
Not publicly.
Only because he does have a wife, which means that would be difficult to maintain like a 4-person at that point.
Who has a wife?
The artist guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't the modiste the artist guy's wife?
No.
Oh, then I mixed up characters while we were watching that. To be fair, I wasn't really looking up a whole lot because I was sewing something. But for some reason I thought he introduced the modiste and was like, this is my wife. I knew that it was I caught that the artist guy's wife was the gal that Benedict had banged during the party. I think. Did they go all the way? I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't watching.
Well, he had kind of like a threesome with the modiste and one other gal. I don't know who the other gal was. But that was when he walked in and saw artist guy with another guy. So I don't recall exactly on that one.
I'll need to rewatch the episode because I might have gotten some characters mixed up there. It doesn't help that because the ladies all wear their hair in a very similar fashion, I am having a bit of difficulty unless they're very distinctly different looking. And when the artist guy introduced his wife, it was only like briefly, and so I thought it was the modiste. So because she had been a mainstay character leading up to that point. So I had assumed when it was like a reveal that, oh, she's been his wife this whole time. If his wife is a completely different character, then that throws my whole theory into a loop. So I'll have to rewatch that.
Who do you think the next season, like which of the siblings do you think the next season revolves around?
Well, the next season, Eloise is going to be going to market, right? So I would assume Eloise to some degree. However, Lil Eloise has expressed pretty publicly that she just doesn't have an interest in being married or being any man's property or like not following through with her own dreams with which to cast her own desires aside. There we go. We got there. So I would assume that we get more Eloise next season, but I would wager that with the way her character's been written in this season, it's going to be her actively avoiding romance at all costs rather than embracing it. And I'm going to presume that one of the lads has their romance entanglement in the next season. If not both. I could see maybe Eloise by the end of the season having met somebody that entices her or something. But my presumption would be that one of the lads, so that they kind of alternate between one of the girls getting married off and one of the guys getting married off, and etc. That would be my assumption based off of just basic writing principles. But this show has done some stuff that I wouldn't expect in a very nice way. And that there's been a couple things where I'm like, ooh, I thought they were going somewhere else with that. On that note, if it's not Danbury, my assumption would be that Eloise is the Lady Whistledown.
Not the widow?
I could also see the widow because I feel like they kind of just tossed her in and were like, this is an important person, and then they moved on. So I could see it being that widow lady, just because that felt kind of like whiplash jarring that this lady is having, suddenly is back in social circles this season after having been, out, but she's only back because her husband died. And it's like, well, if her husband died, she inherited as well. She's probably got a whole bunch of free time. So I could see it if they only sprinkled her in just a little bit to give you an inclination that that's who it was. And I would actually like to go back and rewatch the socializing scenes that we've seen thus far to see if she's just sort of there in the background. I would be curious because this does seem like the kind of show where I feel like who it is. You can go back and see them sort of muttering around through the crowd. I'd be very curious. I don't know if obviously, I assume you know who it is at this point by season 4. Mm-hmm. So I would be curious if you've noticed them in the background, whoever it is, over the course of the season. I don't remember what the little lady looked like, so I'd have to go back to that scene and then go back and rewatch the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. Eloise seems like they've planted a lot of clues that it could be Eloise. Mm-hmm. And that she is a writer. She's always got her little notebook. She's always jotting down little notes. She's at every one of these parties that they're going to because, she's being prepped for the next season of being a little socialite. And so she also gets gossip from Penelope. That is one of the reasons I could see it being her. The only problem I see with it being Eloise is who's doing the printing. Like, how is she getting these out? Mm-hmm. Because that would be the difficulty in her position, is that she's very young. She doesn't have the access to the wealth in order to get these things printed. She doesn't have the access to the wealth in order to get them distributed. Maybe she does. I mean, she's got an allowance, so that's the only thing she spends her allowance on.
Women have it's called pin money, mm-hmm. which is kind of like their spending money. Mm-hmm. Like how her and Penelope went to stroll the streets together, and she bought a little quill. So they have some money.
They have
on
some
them,
spending
but
money,
but obviously they're not.
It's not. It doesn't seem like it would probably be enough to.
Antony would hold the majority of the wealth, mm-hmm. and be responsible for the family's wealth, and then would probably divvy up the allowances per child, and then knowing that they're all the girls are supposed to have dowries, he would make sure that those funds are allocated mm-hmm. Properly to each of those girls. So I don't really know what they do for the men, because obviously they would get money from the estate as well, but so they're not really bringing money in, from my understanding, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't have like an income source of.
It would depend, both on the size of the family's fortune, from what I understand. So a second son, for instance, doesn't inherit anything. Typically, they won't inherit the family's fortune. However, it would not be uncommon for a father to give them like a nest egg to go out into the world with. So it wouldn't surprise me
they'd
that
have
like,
enough too, because it's like it's been established that Colin likes traveling.
Yeah.
So he'd have enough money to do
Get out
his
and about.
travels
Yeah.
and then be able to support
It was
himself out in the
also
world.
very heavily encouraged for a young man to be worldly. In that time period, it was the gentlemanly thing to do, to go out and experience the world, because you would be more knowledgeable going forward from that. So, if Colin was like, Antony, I want to go to this place, and they have the funds available, Antony would absolutely just be like, yeah, go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go experience things. A lot of the time, that is also the purpose of a dowry, is that, like, if you're not necessarily the purpose of, but that is part of a dowry, is that, your husband is expected to take care of you and be the household manager and stuff. And so oftentimes a dowry was essentially like an investment in your coupling's future. And that, like, a wise man would take that dowry and, they'd put it toward a house or put it into their businesses or their investments. And then that way they would have some kind of recurring income from it. If you were up in that high aristocracy, if you were maybe slightly lower class and that dowry was being paid, it was probably to help you with, like, buying a plot of land or something to build your house on, or to have the house built. Particularly if you're like Benedict, for instance, is a second son. So he's not going to inherit the Bridgerton house, right? So if he wants to move out, because it would be kind of uncouth for him to stay in the house after being married. So if Benedict is to move out, it would likely necessitate him receiving a large dowry. So he would need to marry.
It's already partially uncouth for them to be there right now. That's why they talk about Antony's bachelor lodgings.
That's true. I feel like Antony, it makes sense because he's like the lord of the house. So it makes sense for him to still be living on site. I think his mom more pointed that out because he is also renting an apartment for his mistress. And she's like, not only do you have a bachelor lodging you're paying for that you never go to, so that you have a place to sneak away with your mistress on that side of town, but also, you're paying for an apartment for your freaking mistress. Why are we spending money on 2 apartments you're not using? Makes sense. I presume the Bridgertons have enough investments and Antony doesn't have gambling issues like Featherington does, and that he's not burning through their fortune rapidly. I hope. If we find out later on that Antony too has mismanaged their funds, would be wild.
I will neither confirm nor deny, because that leads to potential spoilers.
Yes. So, inferring from what you said earlier about Antony not doing some things that don't have the best interests of the family in mind or whatever, I'm like, oh, Antony's mismanaging funds. Which would just sort of be the obvious thing based off that conversation. But that being said, I would wager Antony seems like the main one that would make sense, because if he doesn't marry soon, that not only kind of looks bad for the family, but also makes it awkward for the other 2 brothers to find a pairing. And that, like, it's kind of uncouth if Colin, who's the youngest of the 3 boys, marries before.
There's technically a 4th.
Oh yeah, there's that little wild man running around. The youngest the almost youngest of the 4 boys. It would be kind of uncouth, if I remember correctly, of social norms from that period, that Colin would marry before Antony. Because I feel like, much like if Eloise found a partner before Daphne, it would kind of ruin Daphne's prospects. She would immediately spin into spinsterhood. Eloise, I feel like we're either going to get, like, she's not actually interested in dudes reveal, and she's going to have a thing with another lady, which would be befitting of her character in a very, like, oh, she's an author, she stays at home with her roommate, and they were just friends.
They were just roommates.
I could absolutely see them having Eloise have a they were just roommates sort of situationship with another character, whether that be Penelope, maybe, based off the fact that they're very close. I wouldn't assume that because Penelope does seem to really have a hearty thirst for Colin. So I think that would be sort of a surprise if it was Penelope, but I could see Eloise meeting like another writer lady or something and having her own sort of thing, because she definitely seems like the kind of gal that would be like, no, I'm going to be a spinster. I don't want to get married. You know, I'm the third daughter or whatever. Second daughter? Second daughter. Of 4?
Yeah. 4 boys, 4 girls.
Okay.
Can you name them all?
So you've got Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise. The girl's name starts with an H. It was like Hyacinth?
That's one, yeah.
Okay. So there's a boy in between E and H, which is F. So Frederick.
Oh.
Franklin.
Oh. There are 2 more because you forgot there's an F and a G.
George.
Yes.
Yes, George is the youngest boy. And there's a daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Hyacinth is the babiest daughter.
Yes.
She's the littlest one.
Yes.
Now it was Francesca.
Yep. I was going to say, it wouldn't be surprising if you didn't know this one very well.
I remember she's in the background
like the first season.
Yeah.
No, she's only really in the first episode because she's off.
That's right. She's off practicing her pianoforte.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, she was in a couple of episodes and then disappeared, and I forgot about her. The funny thing was, I thought that girl was Hyacinth. Have we seen Hyacinth on screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, her and George aren't on screen like
they're just the little
terribly
ones, right?
much.
They're the ones
though.
that were throwing peas at each other when the Duke first came to us.
Yeah. They're kind of too young to really have a lot of plot or conversation around them. They're not part of any sort of society. They're still just children.
They're children.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the Duke a lot. I like his character. The actor who plays him is phenomenal. I recognized him immediately because he's the paladin in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which we need a sequel to. Where is that? Give me my Dungeons and Dragons sequel. Because he was just so good as the paladin. He played that character so well. And there are little bits of that I can't help but notice, and I don't know if Bridgerton or the D&D movie came out first, but there are definitely aspects of both characters I see in either performance.
I can't remember what year Bridgerton verse came out. Because I only watched it for the first time last year. Was it last year? I don't know. I think it was last year. I think it was 2025. But probably earlier in the year.
But I have enjoyed his character a lot. The relationship between him and Daphne is very believable. I like their they have a really good on-screen chemistry. I keep getting thrown off by how much the actress who plays Daphne looks like Keira Knightley. She just looks like Keira Knightley's baby sister is the only thing I could think of. I'm like, she just looks like a slightly different Keira Knightley, which just throws me off because I keep thinking it's her, and I've seen Pride and Prejudice, and my brain's going, She also kind of looks like Natalie Portman, which I think Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman also just kind of look very similar.
Yeah. That's been very well
established thing. I mean, that was why I think Keira Knightley is Natalie Portman's or Queen Amidala's handmaiden or doubles. Like her double in Phantom Menace was because of that. So this cool wibbly cloud. What's going on there?
Oh, I was looking at the frozen river.
Oh, that also was cool. But
an inaccessible playground.
Inaccessible Playground.
On the side
Awesome
of
name for a punk band.
In the side of a highway, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest area is here, but like that was
They're like
basically
walk
an
a half mile down to the playground
Yeah.
in the snow.
I don't know how you
there's a
got
playground
to that.
there, so
There
it's
is.
not for the rest stop.
Okay.
Sure. It's its own separate weird thing.
In the middle of the freeway, with no clear exit before it.
That'd be how it do sometimes.
Yes,
It's probably for like
it's
a
like
school
a
or
neighborhood,
something. Yeah,
but like
you could
again,
say.
why is it right next to the freeway?
And the frozen river. Frozen river. Yeah, I've enjoyed Benedict so far as a character for the little bit that we see him. Anthony feels like he's doing his best, and his best just isn't very good. Like he's trying. He's really trying, but he's just not good at this whole thing. So the one thing that I would enjoy, that I could see, would be if Anthony abdicated his position as the first and passed on the house and the holdings to Benedict.
Who would not be thrilled by that.
What's that?
Who would not be thrilled by that.
Oh, Benedict would be bummed out because he seems to really enjoy the second son position of being able to goof off and do whatever he wants. But that would make for really good drama and show. So I kind of assume that might be where that's going. If I were to facelessly speculate about where I could see the story going, my presumption would be we get a little bit more of Daphne becoming like kind of filling into the role of being a duchess. We get some closure with the Duke kind of accepting that he's going to be a father or whatever, and we get just like a little bit more of them, I think, as the season kind of closes out to tie up their story, and then I imagine they'll be slightly less prominent, like they'll still be around, but they'll be less prominent characters in the next season, because they've kind of had their piece of the story so far. And then we'll just go in alphabetical order. Anthony, I feel like, is going to be just so put out with being the firstborn that he would rather go live with his mistress lady. And I think maybe part of the next season is him abdicating his position, making it Benedict's problem. Would make for excellent drama, make for some interesting developments character-wise. I'd honestly kind of prefer that for Anthony because he seems kind of miserable in the position that he's in. And I feel like him running off with his opera lady would be fitting of the character that we've seen so far. And that he wants to be responsible, but he's bad at it. So I could very much see him going like, I'm just accepting that I'm not the right person for this and moving on. And then I would love to see Benedict sort of fill those shoes begrudgingly. Would be kind of a cool character arc for him, I would say, because like he's sort of had the boyish irresponsibility so far of being the second son. And so I think it would be kind of a cool area for character growth for Benedict to have to now fill this role and become the responsible older brother, and then find a lady at court and
2 miles, take exit 20.
all that, and then maybe have his side fling with the artist guy and that kind of thing, or maybe he meets an artist lady at one of these little things, and they kind of are on the riskier side of things. Would be kind of an interesting twist. I think Colin and Marina are going to end up being a thing. And then there's going to be like a cool plot twist where the soldier guy comes back. Unless the soldier guy comes back by the end of this season and he and Marina fuck off, which would be wild. If that is the case, interesting. If that's not the case, if Colin and Marina end up together because she finds out the soldier guy is dead and that's why he hasn't been writing back. Because I feel like it would be pretty...
roller coaster.
Nice. I feel like it would be kind of cheap to have the soldier guy come back and have never written back, unless it's revealed that Featherington has been taking those fucking letters and shredding them, and that's why she hasn't received correspondence from him. because she came there basically as soon as she was pregnant, so the guy couldn't have been gone that long.
In a half mile, take exit 20 for New York 149 toward Fort Anne, Whitehall.
Based off of their speculations about how long she has, if she's been there for 3 months and they're like, you know, you're lucky if you got 6 months left before the baby comes, then that to me
was a Six Flags.
Take
wow.
exit 20.
If just doing the math there would mean that like she boinked that dude like right before she got dropped off.
At the light, turn left onto New York 149 East, US 9
here.
North.
You know what I mean? So that would be my assumption, is that that guy only left recently. So the fact that they're like, oh, he's never written back, I'm like, it probably takes like a month for the mail to get to him, for one. And then for two, yeah, it would make sense that he, you know, if he hears about the baby and then doesn't receive correspondence back, like maybe she's trying to send letters out and they're shredding them on the way out, like they're not actually letting them be delivered, or they're tearing him up when he responds. So he, after hearing about this, you know, leaves the front and comes back and it's like, God damn it, you know, why haven't you been responding to me? And, you know, or wrote to her father and her father was like, she's not even here. I would be curious who this guy is. I'm very curious about who the soldier guy is, if he does show back up as a character, because of the fact that we haven't really heard anything about him. We just know that he went to war. I'm curious whether or not this fella is like a person of prominence of any sort, because of the fact that she was like a lady of a house. Or presumably her father is some kind of a lord, based on the fact that she's been allowed to be in polite society, makes her a lady of some kind. So then that begs the question of, you know, who this guy had to have been a lord of some kind or someone of repute, I would assume, unless she's slumming it with a peasant. You know, which based off of her attitude, I would not be surprised. She does seem a bit rakish herself. But if this guy does come back,
turn right onto New York 149 East.
I could see that not being Colin's problem. And then if this guy does show up at the end of this season, I would presume then that Colin's going to go travel the world for a season or two, and then he's going to come back, you know, a changed man and grizzled and worldly, and he's going to have had some exciting adventures in Egypt or something. It was fashionable to go to Egypt in that time period. So that would be my assumption, is that like if Colin and Marina don't end up together, that he's going to piss off for a couple of seasons, or for like this whole next season. He's just going to be gone off on his worldly travels, and then maybe season 3 he comes back, and then we get some Colin in social circles, which would be interesting. Eloise, if we've already gone over, I think she's going to either end up with the King of Prussia guy, or the Prince of Prussia. He's going to come back and they're going to form some kind of a relationship because he enjoys her nonchalant attitude toward life. Or if that guy never comes back, I think she's going to have like a they were roommates thing with some other character that either has or has not been introduced. And then the other kids are too young to speculate about. We haven't been given anything about them, I guess. But I like I'm assuming what we're going to learn this last couple episodes of this season is that the steward who's been maintaining the Duke's estates while he's been out, or while he was dying, has been pocketing a ton of money, and there's going to be like a scandal about that, and they're going to have like a cool introduction as the Duke and Duchess of this area, and that they're going to be really good rulers right off the rip. You know, they're going to come in and fix all the scummy, underhanded stuff that the steward was doing, and that'll be like a cool way for them to sort of establish themselves as the new Duke and Duchess of this area, in a way that's very befitting of the time period, and will make them look good. And then that'll be kind of the closure of their thing, is that like she'll be with child, they'll have established themselves, and that'll be kind of the way this season ties its little bow before we get. And then I imagine we get like a little hint of either who Lady Whistledown is, or like which one of the next kids is going to be the sort of focal point for the next season. So anyways, those are my baseless speculations based off of what I've seen so far. If we do a end of this season little wrapped thing, I'll know how close I was to the money.
Yeah.
And then I'll have maybe a slightly different speculation for season 2.
That wraps up our about 90-minute conversation about Bridgerton. So
You knew this was coming.
Yeah.
You got me into a thing.
I like need a nap now, I think. I don't know.
There's coffee for that.
All right. Peace.